How you doing, folks? You're watching Live with Onrie, and I'm your host, Onrie Combin. What's with this background here? It's my fault entirely. I am juggling a lot right now between e-learning and getting adjusted to stuff. So I should be in my studio having my backdrop and everything, and I apologize that's not the case. But with the school year, I hope you guys can forgive me for my lack of professional preparation and etiquette. But regardless, where I lack, today's guest will pick up the slack for me. I have an incredible artist. She is from South Korea. She is a female force in the comics world, and she has done all kinds of stuff, and she's going to tell us all about it right now. Everybody, please welcome MOG PARK to Live with Onrie. How you doing, MOG?
Hey, what's up, Onrie? Am I pronouncing it?
Yes, you are. Absolutely. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super excited to actually get to know you.
Same here, dude. Well, before we go on, let's all get to know you. Can you tell us all who you are, what you do, and all that lovely jazz?
Okay. I'm my name is MOG PARK, as you can see in the name here. My name, okay, it's real, and I'm a freelance artist. I do like many gigs. I worked for commercial. I worked for like TV shows, illustrations. Now I'm doing more like comic books. I do tabletop gaming as well. Anything that's illustration, like art, is required. Basically, just spread out that way. But lately, after the commercial gigs, I'm kind of changing my venue to more like published gigs. And it's a whole different animal, and I'm really enjoying that scene. So.
That's awesome. And so you're originally from Korea?
Oh yeah, I'm actually South Korean. Okay. So,
yeah, of course, yeah. For those of you who need it.
Yeah, because some people ask, "Are you from North Korea?" It's like, no, I'm South Korean.
I always forget to mention that, to underline that, because for me, Korea is always South Korea, because that's where I've been multiple times. So I always you're Korean, and to me, I don't see the difference between North and South. If you're Korean, you're Korean. It's an indigenous culture. It's all the same thing. It's just a different political, differences. But other than that, Korean people are Koreans. They all speak the same language. You have the same culture, history, and everything, and that's a wonderful thing. So I'm go ahead, say something.
No, you're like the only person I've ever met so far of all the years I've been here, because I actually came here to US 2000. You're the only one I've ever met who said that. Friends. Thank you so much. I'm actually blown away. Like, oh man, that gets me.
Well, I have a lot of, obviously, I have a lot of admiration for Korean culture, and it's my passion, and to share Admiral Yi's story with the world and everything. But what I really think is cool is, I think last week I had a guest who was actually based in South Korea, and he's from Canada, and he's a comic book writer who put together this really cool horror book. And it was the episode right before this one that you're on right now. So it's kind of cool that I got two kind of like Korea-based guests like back to back, which is really awesome. And I miss Korea so much. I haven't been back there since like 2016 and all that stuff. But enough about me, because you're the special guest, not me. Yeah. And I have a question for you. So from what I know about Korea, and it's not very much, the culture itself is extremely conservative. Yet you have grown up in this country, and then pursued this incredible career as an artist, which a lot of people, particularly Koreans, are very skeptical of. So can you tell me a little bit, what was your upbringing like? How did you get into this field of artistry? Because I don't want to like pigeonhole you into comics. You seem to be really diversified in terms of illustration. You're into, like, I see you more as like a Frank Frazetta than I do like a comic book artist like a Jack Kirby. Like the impression I get from seeing your art. So please take it away. Tell us, what your origin story is.
So basically, I was born in Korea, and you're right. We're the real, like, we call it Republic of Korea. So we're very like Republican style, conservative. We're very conservative. I mean, that's just the culture, okay? Right? And then Confucianism is huge. I mean, historically, okay. So we're like coming from that principle of Confucianism. It's like embedded in our foundation. So that's why there's conservatism, right? So I was born Seoul, the capital, and my parents definitely were from conservative families. My dad was in the political era. I mean, he worked in the political side, so it's very conservative. My mom was kind of more of a free spirit, but she's very religious, so super conservative there. She was a psychologist, and so, I mean, it's very just bone dry educational type of background. So I actually wasn't really introduced to art at all. Very academic driven. I mean, if you go to Korea, I think statistically with another Scandinavian country, like Korea is like high up in the educational like ranking in the world. But they both of them approach is different. Like I think the Scandinavian side is very freestyle, and Korea is very it's very different. It's actually a backdrop of military. So if you go to schools there, everything is run as a military regiment. You have the salutations. You've got the they will say there's a certain saying. I forgot in Korean. I know what it is, but in English I can't really translate it. But of course, if you're
what's it in Korean? I'm just curious to know.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, how is it pronounced in Korean?
They will say 차렷. 차렷 means like straight. Like you have to.
Yeah. Okay. Like
what is that?
Stand up in attention.
Yes, attention. That's the word. 차렷 means attention. Attention. You have to do that, and then they'll say bow. Like I mean, it's from the very beginning since you're like born with the milk, in your mouth. That's the school system, and for us, it's like totally normal. Well, what is that? And for punishment, you get PT. Like. And you get corporal punishment, all of that. It's just all very, very super regimented. I mean, when you go there, man.
I actually trained in Korea. So I went yes, when I was in Taekwondo, I actually went in 2000, and I trained in various parts of like Seoul, and I went to like Kukiwon and stuff, and like they like showed like a cool demonstration, but like we were up every morning at 6 a.m. no matter where we were. If we were in a hotel, in a nice hotel, we were training in a hot garage for an hour, and like we had to like run around the parking lot. And then we were doing push-ups on concrete, like barefoot, push-ups on cement and concrete and blacktop. It sucked. And I mean, it is extremely regimented, and I believe there's a reason for it. Like when you look at it, comparing it to here, where we have such high political tension, and we think, okay, you're either a Republican and you're evil, or you're a liberal and you're not you're a good free spirited person. But the thing is that I think based on Korean history, that lends itself to being very rigid, because there's been attacks from all fronts. There was the Japanese attacking in the early 1900s when they took over the country and basically occupied it until the end of World War II. And then you had the split between North and South Korea, which I still consider to be very unfortunate. And now Korea itself, South Korea, is this really tiny country, and what always attracted me to Korean culture was just the regimented system of how people live their lives. It's a very strict way of living, but you bring out the best in yourself when you're doing it. And it's not exactly communist. It's more like you have to be ready for anything that could happen. Yeah. And the only other country that I can relate to that has that same philosophy is Israel, which is so Israel and South Korea have a lot in common in that regard.
Yes.
And I really respect both cultures tremendously, and so it's and I understand it too.
Thank you. Wow, you really hit the. Yeah, you're right. The thing is, if you think about it, it's incredible because you only see a tiny portion. If you look at the map, Korea is like this small, and then right on top, huge China, right? But historically, we're actually thousands of years old, and we survived because why? We fight.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We're
And you
getting
got
crushed by here. We're getting, and then like, Japan, we didn't even care. We're like, ah, you guys are nobodies. But then later on, you're getting crushed from here and here. It's like, what the heck? So especially, we have very rich history when it comes to war. So much war, all the time, all the time. There's fight. And the interesting part is the one with the richest history that is so like legendary, like land war wise, is North Korea. Yeah, there was a period in Korea called Goguryeo. That, and that's where the stem word Korea comes from, Goguryeo. So you take the ku out, so Goryeo. So Goguryeo became Goryeo, which is actually Korea. And that is a whole nother story, but it is incredible. They're insane. So North Koreans were the, what do you call, the gatekeepers. So they had to be more tough, more military, like crazy. Every single civilians had to be able to fight, you know?
Absolutely. Even Yun Shin fought in the north. He was, before he was admiral, he was actually stationed up in it was called the Chosun Fort, but I forgot the name of the little island that it was. But it was basically like they were being invaded by Jurchen tribes, and that's where he kind of like had his like first experience in military warfare and stuff. And what a worse place to gain your experience from than being like right on the border where there's constant skirmishing going on and like, you know, just brutal. And even then he whooped ass, which is kind of cool too, which just the Korean spirit is truly stronger than you know, what we lend it credit for, you know. And just there's so many people just outside of Yun Shin, just so many historical figures throughout Korean history that have like just done these like miraculous, like amazing things. And it's part of the culture, it's part of the spirit, and that has lived on for so long, as you're saying. And what's really cool is like I see how much pride you have for it, you know, like well, even though your career has taken you in such a different way, would you say that your indigenous culture helps you kind of like push past any of like the hurdles you might face when, you know, trying to find work as an illustrator, or, you know, dealing with those kind of like the conservative backlash of your career, you know?
Okay, I think the number one thing, there's good and bads. So I'm gonna just lay it out for you, okay? The good thing, which is the major essential thing that had given me through all that, because that from the moment you're born, it's like you're struggling. The way, if you grow up there, it's a struggle. It's an incredible struggle. And I happen to be born on the baby born second generation. So there's massive competition. Okay, so it's a struggle and a struggle. But what I got from there was the drive. So it's that kind of weird, crazy fire drive. I know you would probably understand it because you're a creator. It's like no matter what, I will do it. Even though I'm failing, even though I'm not getting anything right. And I'm about to say there's many times where, you know, we fight with despair because there's the uncertainty, right? But there was something always inside that's like a crazy, like a heat, like a volcanic fire saying no. You know, even though it's about to die, it's like, I will get it no matter what. It's like a very aggressive, red-colored, violent drive.
I feel that all the time.
It's like it's rage. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a rage, and
it's a determination that you will succeed no matter fucking what, and no one is going to tell you no. You were going to do it, and that's it. You determined it. Now you just have to make it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it's so crazy. Every time you're about to, everything is gone, and even you're feeling down, that little ember is an ember, and then something happens and it's, I don't know. So that drive was instilled. And the thing is, I have a lot of because struggle. I don't really have a really I would say a pretty past because of all the shit stories I have accumulated, especially dealing with pain, like literal pain, you know. So I don't know, like it kind of gave me it gave me this choice. I was like, it's really in a dark place once, like 16, 17, and I said, okay, you have two choices. There's no way out. You know, you're stuck here. You either cry or you laugh. What do you want? It's your choice, okay? And I said, you know what? I rather laugh about it, man. Forget this. So I just learned to deal with the pain and just brush it off. Like, so some people, when they get to know me, like I do smile a lot, I laugh a lot. I'm kind of chill, but and I think I could offend people when I guess like I feel shallow, but actually I'm processing it, and I learned to not let it affect me. Does that make sense? Like,
Absolutely. What you're describing to me is the exact kind of things that occur in conventions, because, you know, like when I'm pitching people at conventions, they have no idea who Yi Sun Shin is. They're like, what's a Yi Sun Shin? So it's my job to obviously tell them what Yi Sun Shin is. And of course, you're going to have people who are interested and who are going to buy it, but you're also going to have people who are going to reject it. And I get rejected far more than I make sales. I just don't care. I will go and I will meet that rejection all fucking day because I believe in what I've done, just as you believe in yourself and what you're doing. So it doesn't matter. You'll fail and fail and fail. But when you were talking about that rage, of course I feel it all the fucking time when I get out there. And it's not rage towards society.
No, it's not. It's a different kind of rage.
It's holding yourself to a higher standard. It's looking at yourself and saying, okay, you want to quit? So fucking quit, you know, or don't fucking quit and keep trudging through the mud. You know, that's it. Make a decision. You know, there's no like sugarcoating it, you know, and I believe that there's something to be said historically and just from our own experiences and our own successes, is that when you keep going forward with it, regardless of how you feel and regardless of what everybody's telling you, you're going to find success because your stubbornness will allow you to prevail. And when you find that success, no one can say anything anymore because like you've achieved this. And I know that all of my Korean friends hold themselves to that same standard. And I think it's like, that's amazing because you don't see that here in America. And not to say that America doesn't have drive or anything. A lot of the creators, I would say all the guests that I've had on the show have displayed their own form of basically what you described just now, you know, whether it's Casey Pierce and her, you know, stoic approach to, you know, just dealing with rejection and learning to move past it, or, you know, Bob Sally's, you know, just it doesn't matter if I fail, I'm going to figure it out eventually and move forward and figure it out and, you know, just learn as you go. And that I think is just really incredible. So tell me more about Game of Thrones and like what you did on that show, because I think it's just so fucking cool that you like got to work on that, and you know, I've seen your illustrations and they're just truly breathtaking.
So the thing is, like, I'm very one-track mind person. So I would draw, but I wouldn't really know how to market myself at that time when I was young, you know, when I was much younger. And very fortunately, my husband, he's American, you know, just raised here and from Hawaii. And Mel, he's very much just always tried to promote me. So one day he started just taking my artwork and posting it up on DeviantArt. And he noticed that I'm very into, like, I love books. You know, more than anything, I like stories first of all. First and foremost, I love stories. So I was really into Game of Thrones, and he saw me reading it nonstop because I would read it over and over and again. That's how I am. If I like something, I will keep reading it over and over and over again. It doesn't matter. And he would say, "Hey, since you keep reading so much, why don't you illustrate some of that? Let's be productive, man."
That's so great. That is so fantastic. And I've seen your husband seems to. I don't even have to, like just from the posts you make. I mean, he makes these elaborate, beautiful meals for you. He's given me a standard to live up to try and impress my own wife and try and make her very delicious, healthy meals. But on top of that, it's really cool that he can look at what you're doing and find he loves your artwork so much that he wants to see you succeed with it and is willing to put time into booking conventions for you and getting jobs. So I just want to tip my hat to your husband. He sounds like a really solid dude.
Dude, you know how that's very rare to actually in my opinion, I learned a lot as I was going through this as I started succeeding in my career. Is I really could not have done this by myself. And as I like to sometimes read the biography of successful people, and 9 times out of 10, literally, or even 10 out of 10, they never did it themselves. There was always somebody supporting them. You can't succeed. I realized you cannot do things by yourself. And that was the one thing growing up. It's just instilled in you. You have to do it yourself. You gotta be strong. You gotta be independent. You gotta be tough. And if you ask for help, it's a weakness. That's one of the bad side of being raised in that kind of regimental society. Because there's a lot of pride instilled in you. And I learned that's not good. You have to work as a team. You need to, the more people you can help and they help you, that's how you all succeed. And that's how I learned with Mel. So, and it's very rare to find, especially a man who wants to just make you succeed. I don't know, you know what I mean? So I really am I really just appreciate Mel for that. So back to Game of Thrones. He posted my artwork, and I remember being really upset about that. Because I feel we have this perfection syndrome. It's not good enough. Don't post it up. But he just posted it, and he started working on it. He tried to get more attention by marketing on DA, and then one day we got an email. This was before the show even. So during the first show came in, the one of the people in HBO, I forgot their title, but they said, "Hey, I like your work here. Can we put this in our webpage?" So I thought, okay, yeah, this is fantastic. Great. And then about another year, at the end of that year, I received an email. And this is when I was very terrible at checking emails. So actually, when I saw that email, it was about 4 to 6 months after they sent me an email. So it was basically an offer, "Hey, we like your work, okay? It's because we're looking for a specific style. We don't want comic. We don't want manga. We want something called illustrated. And we're looking for that, and your style fits it. So do you want to work for me?" It was by a very prestigious production company, which I didn't even know existed because you're so dumb. Because I was trained. I have a degree in traditional illustration, so I was aiming to work in a publishing company, like book illustrations, stuff like that. So I was never ever in my dream thinking I would ever work for production companies, like commercial gigs. So I'm not aware of the names, and then I thought it was a joke, so I once deleted it and said, "Hey, Mel," and he was cooking in the kitchen. "There's this guy, he said he's gonna offer. Isn't that hilarious? I'm gonna delete it." And he's like, "Hey, let me review this."
Oh, that's so funny. That's really cool. So basically, all right, go on. I'm interested. Tell me more.
Oh, okay. So he's like, "Let me review this, man. Just stop, wait for me." And he stopped cooking. He was done, and they came, and he's like, read it, and he's like, "Hey, do not delete this. This is real." And then he looked at the date, and that's when he exploded with rage.
Because it was.
Check your email.
Well, you know, Mog, I'll tell you this. I think we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Yesterday, another creator, his name is Travis Gibb, he posted something, and he said, you know, there should be some priorities on every creator's list in terms of how they market or in terms of what their reach is, right? And, you know, there's like 4 categories. There's conventions, there's Kickstarter, there's digital marketing, and then there is, you know, stores, right? So you have these 4 categories, and he was like, you know, what do you guys think is your priority? And which one is most important to you? And the funny thing is the people that were strongest in Kickstarter were saying, you know, Kickstarter was their thing. And the people that were strongest at conventions were saying conventions. And the people who were strongest when it came to dealing with retailers were saying retails. So the thing that I found interesting about this is you can't say that one category is more important than the other. They're all equally important, but we all have our strengths in certain areas. And I think what's really cool about you and Mel is you guys complement each other so well. So you're an artist. You focus on what you're drawing, and you have all of your focus goes into that. The world could be burning, but you have like, you know, this very narrow vision of what you're doing, and we all suffer from it. To be honest with you, there's so many areas of marketing that this year has humbled me. I lack, and where I am so strong at conventions, I lack in so many other areas. And I'm perfectly fine admitting that, because if I didn't admit that, I could never improve in these areas. Like I've never felt strong about Kickstarter or anything, because I just have to improve. You know, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, go on.
Okay. I get you. I'm the same. So yes, Mel is totally different brain. So he got really angry, and he immediately emailed back, hoping that they would respond. Although he started apologizing, like, "I'm so sorry, it's like this much late. It was in spam." Like, you know? And then we just prayed. We just kept praying that they would actually look at the email and respond back to us. And luckily they did. So, and then they offered the gig, and we weren't able to, because we already could miss the chance of the season 1. So they put me for season 2. But you think everything is flowers and roses there? No. The thing is, just because they are giving you an offer, what they do is they give you an audition. So the way these TV commercial works, you're basically a hired actor. Literally, the contract was the same, like a freelance actor. I got the contract, and you have to go through and pass audition, and you have to go through several producers to agree with it. It's not just one guy. It's 3 different factions, departments, and they all have to make a consent that, yes, we like this. I think it's gonna work. Let's hire this person. So that was interesting. So they called a test page, and they gave me a little, like, 2-sentence description. And I thought, okay, Game of Thrones, they're gonna have massive encyclopedia of all kinds of references and directions and stuff like that, and they're gonna tell me what to do. But the audition page was like 2-sentence, and then they're like, just depict this for us, and and here's a deadline. Like they gave me like about 2 weeks to see if I can finish it. So Mel, again, he's the coach. He's actually also Army trained. So he's like, okay, they say 2 weeks, but you're gonna finish it in less than 1 week.
My man, he's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, and he was like, dude, if they ask for 100%, you gotta do 200%, because this is test page.
Fuck
you
yeah.
have to effing blow their minds away.
Absolutely.
Or this is the one chance you will never want to ever miss. So okay, and then he would like type in and research all the material, even though there's only 2 sentences. We were like researching, and he would print pages and pages of materials and said, "Mog, you're gonna put this, this, and this, and make sure all of this, you just do it, okay?" And then I would do thumbnails, and I sent it to them, And after like agonizing thumbnails, then they're like, okay, I think we're like this. No, actually, there wasn't even a thumbnails because you're on your own. And then so him and I were just going back and forth, like, is this gonna be good? It's gonna be good. And then I did the massive 11:17 piece of a garden, which is a garden scene of these Tyrells. Yeah, it's a house, and it's a scene where the conqueror has just landed, and the people. It's like Alexander the Great. There was this one story where he didn't even bother to fight. He just landed on the gate, and everybody's like, yes. I think it was Babylon, right? Somewhere in the Middle East. Don't kill us. Just we surrender. You know, it was that scene. So there was this house. They were smart. They're like, okay, I know they're gonna burn everything. I'm just gonna swear surrender right now. I'm gonna swear fealty right now, so he doesn't burn anything. That's what the house did. So that was a pinnacle key moment that I had to draw. And there was many elements, courtiers, characters, and then just background, like just have to blow them around with background. And then I focus on that because Mel, it's hard to know what your strength is. And Mel was telling me, okay, your strength is background and details. So you focus on that. So I focus on the background, even though they didn't really ask for it. Background, details, all that stuff, and I got it in. And then we were remembering, we waited 2 weeks. Around 2 weeks, you know, hoping that they're going to give us an answer, because if they don't like it, they might never even, email you back, right? And then finally they say, okay, you know, we all agreed, we liked it, so you're in. So for one, and then the way it worked is they give you a script, so you're in for one slot of a script. So it doesn't end there. So Mel said when we got the script, me and him were thinking, yes. Now we're going to get the real deal. Like, we're going to get descriptions.
Yeah, you're going to be able to work off of a lot more material now. That's cool.
Yeah, they're going to get more materials. But no, it was even less than 2 sentences. Like one sentence, like merchant ship. That's it. You know. But make sure that they would have key element bullet points. Merchant ship, but in this era style. You know, like and it has to be and then they would do it in context with fantasy. So they would say, I want a Valyrian ship, which is that context. So doesn't even really exist. So it's up to you to come up with it and get that feel. So what I didn't know, like I'm just thrust into this world of like camera language, and there was calling panning and whatever, wide angles. Like I didn't even know what those words were. And then I didn't even know what my job title was. And it turns out it was a bit of everything. It was like, it was like a storyboard / key scene guy. So I was basically the guy who would take the illustration. So they would just finish the script off, right? And then they would send it through the directors, and the directors are like formulating, okay, let's do a sequence here, 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 and here. And I think the images should be like here and here. Okay. And then they're just brainstorming, and then they'll write down, okay, ship here. This is an indoor library scene, and this is a character close up. Like they're just brainstorming, right? And then basically, I'm getting that note. I'm getting that script.
Did they build the sets around the illustrations that you turned into them?
The thing is, this kind of illustration that they particularly required was actually all the background stories. That's why they particularly keyed on illustrations. So what they would do is they'll take my illustrations, and then they'll have other artists color or animate it. But I don't even know if they actually used it or not, because you're just like 1 in 1,000 of all these other illustrations. But some of the things that was interesting is while I was working on the some of the scripts, as I finally got to work on other scripts, they would say, okay, you get to design, for example, there's a Baratheon castle. Okay, I forgot the castle's name. It's like Storm's End or something. And they said nobody's ever drawn it. It's never been on the show. So you get to draw it, whatever you want, do it. So make sure, but it feels like an unbreakable fortress on the cliff of a ship, stuff like that. So I got to design it, stuff like I got to just draw it and design it, and whatever they say, I just draw and give it to them, and I don't even know where it's gonna turn out, all the artwork, but I don't care, because I'm having so much fun.
No, you're having fun. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's interesting because when the Myeongnang movie came out in 2014, the movie about Yi Sun-shin's battle at the Screaming Straits. There was the company that made that movie. They contacted me and they said, we want to use your artwork to promote our movie. And originally they were like, we're going to give you exposure. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I can't accept exposure. You're going to need to, put a little bit more meat on the bone for me here. And what was really nice about it was they put some money in my pocket and I got to come out to Korea. And, I got to go to this Yi Sun-shin festival, and then I got flown back to see the movie 2 years later in theaters. Wow. And what was cool about it was at that point, there had been a ton of production changes. So I didn't get any credit in the movie for helping them promote or anything. And they couldn't guarantee it at the time. Cause honestly, in the big scheme of things, I'm just a little tiny microcosm of what the overall picture ended up being, but you still had some small imprint on it. And that feels kind of good. I wasn't really happy with the way that movie turned out, if I'm being totally honest. Our version of that same battle is way more epic. And I sent you the books, by the way, so they should be around. I hope they are. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you think about Yi Sun-shin.
Okay.
But yeah, I know what you mean. It's just who cares? You had an imprint on something that was so well received, that's so popular that it's allowed you to do all these other things. And one thing I'm really curious about, I've seen how active you've been on the Artist Alley shopping network. And it seems like you've really found a way to build your own following. I'm totally curious because I have no idea what it is, because I barely get any time to outside of doing the show, I barely have time to really just browse the internet and just hang out on Facebook and do all this kind of stuff. Can you tell me what this is and what you do on there?
So Artist Alley Shopping Network is basically, think of it like a virtual Artist Alley convention, which is amazing. Think about that. And you get, I think for me, I get about a slot of 2 hours. I'm not particularly, sometimes it's an hour, but I try to say 2 hours in that. And then during that slot, an artist would, if they have their products to sell, or their books, or anything they want to sell, they get to, just like a convention, they get to show it. And they offer prices, and this is what I have, these are prints. And then one by one, they just, do it. And then it's on a weekly basis. And I think that's very powerful, because conventions, it's once a year, right? I mean, depending.
Yeah, how conventions you decide to do, but if you're going to Phoenix Comic-Con, it's only happening once a year. There might be other conventions happening in that same area, but the one that draws in the most people only happens once a year. So absolutely, I agree with you. And that's why we move around so much, is because there's other shows in other states that we go to. So yeah, totally. But here's just this one area where you can constantly, it's a wellspring that you can constantly go to.
Yeah. And the best part is it's no cost to you. It's just at your home. Whereas when we go to conventions, we have to pay all these fees, table fees. There's so many fees that we have to, hotels, everything, right? It takes time too. But now, and then whatever changes I have, so for example, if I'm working on a new project, I would say, instead of waiting for the next year or next month to a different convention, I can say, hey, this is what I'm working on, man. Here it is. And then it's like a progress. You show your progress. You can do anything you want. But for me, my platform right now, the way I'm concentrating is because I became so many friends with different Kickstarters, and I'm working for a Kickstarter, independent comics more, doing the cover arts and whatnot. I'm trying to support them. So what I would do is I would say, hey, this week I'm drawing this character from this independent comic.
That's so cool.
You know what I mean? Because I learned, through very hard, very experience really through Mel, drilling inside me. You can't do this alone. You need to help each other. Very important. Teamwork is very important. And I respect all these people. I know it's incredible hard to like, you know, write and be a creator, and then even try to draw on top of that is insane. So what I do is I try to promote the Kickstarters in any way I can. And I really am enjoying that. For example, just yesterday I finished I started working on Yuli's Vision, another independent comic who is incrementally growing, which is amazing. It always makes me happy to see the guys I know. Like, so for example, now I got to know you, Onrie. So if you do a Kickstarter, I see your progress. Makes me super happy.
Right.
Because you're achieving your dream.
You're 100% right about that, Mog. I had someone that I would like to say was kind of like a silent rival for me, that you know, I've known for quite some time in the comic book industry, and I like to say that the rivalry I had with him forced me to expect more from myself. It forced me to keep going down the path that I felt I was going down. Well, I've come to a point now where I was always kind of like resenting his success. And I was kind of stepping on my own feet and everything because I wanted to just be so much better than him. But eventually there came a point where I realized that him and I were on such different trajectories. He wanted to do different things than I did.
Yeah.
What difference did it make now? Did it mean that he is insignificant and I'm the only thing that matters? Well, no, because when people see comics, like if you present the common person with two comics, they're not going to say, oh, this one's done by this guy and it's good, and this one's done by that guy and he's an asshole and these two hate each other. It doesn't matter. They just see two comics. They're going to enjoy them, you know, for very different reasons. So I got over that inclination of there's this rivalry, and instead I started to support him more because I think his success is my success, and in a very odd way of putting it. Like, if his projects succeed, it's only going to help more people become accustomed to the stuff that's out there. And once people get hooked on independent comics and realize, well, this stuff's not Marvel or DC, but it's still just as good, they want to read more independent comics and they want to check out more stuff. So I think you have the right attitude of like helping and doing everything. And I find it to be so fascinating because you could be drawing more high concept stuff. Like, if you wanted to, you could be working at Marvel or DC or any of these other companies, and yet you're kind of like turning your head and saying, you know what, I want to help the independent guys get some of the spotlight too. And I think that's really awesome. And I definitely want to talk to you about that because I think that it's just amazing. So you invited me when I initially invited you to come on the show. You in turn invited me to an event that you're hosting in November, which I would very much love to be a part of. Could you tell? Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Could you tell us about it?
Oh, yeah. It's actually one of my friends, a good friend of mine, an artist friend. Her name is Onrie. She's based in Hawaii. We met in Hawaii, and we were kind of helping her out to, you know, start. And then actually, I would say Mel helped her out more because he has more knowledge in marketing and trying to, you know, start something. And Mel's always trying to start like an event, because I learned again through Mel and through doing this Kickstarters is if you want to succeed, like as soon as possible, you don't wait for an opportunity to come knocking on your door. Like in my case, I was very spoiled. I got very lucky because they just came knocking on my door. And usually it kind of turns that way for me. But now I want to do a different approach. Like me and Mel is doing a different approach. Like, hey, instead of waiting, let's make it happen, right? So right now COVID hits, so we can't go to conventions. So Mel was inspired by this other friend in Hawaii. His name is Michael Cannon. He started a convention, virtual convention. And Mel's like, oh, this is doable, man. Let's do this. So he tried to make another convention on his own where, you know, like virtual convention, come on, we did a little bit. And it was okay. But she was participant there. She's like, okay, I think I have a better idea. I want to make something even more like, you know, and this is going to be interesting because this is 101 tales. So imagine you're going into a convention, like a virtual con. So instead of saying, look at my wares, it's like a web page of like kind of Etsy, like, hey, this is my art, check it out, buy it like this. We want to make it more interactive. It's more immersive. So now we're actually putting a theme of a story in the convention. You're weaving a story, okay? So if the theme, for example, the theme is 101 Tales, then you get to tell a story. And it would, instead of saying me, or look at me, or look at my artwork, whatever, there's more of a now focused purpose. So now you're giving more viewers something that you want, because wouldn't you love it as a storyteller? And also you love stories. You go into a con and you get to get an experience of different stories. You know, like 1001 Nights. Actually, that's where we got the Arabian Nights. We got inspiration from. So Mel's been actually helping structure the thing, but it's actually An who's really the force behind it. She's like the top guy who's in charge of everything. And then through this, we got to just reach out to people like you, other artists and other authors. So it's more focused on like writers as well, especially writers, because they have a lot of stories to tell. So this is a chance for you to tell it, you know, and we get to know you. I think it's more entertaining, it's more fun, and it's very unique. I haven't seen any conventions like this, and I'm super excited about this. So
I think what's really cool about it is you're thinking outside of the box, and you're getting people to use. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into just doing a convention. You know, there's the logistics of it, right? Because you got all these expenses, but you also have a lot of like labor in terms of like setting up shop and doing all these things. So that work can take about 8 hours to do. You know, it is a full-time, it's a full day job. Like, for example, New York Comic Con last year. God, wow. That was such a fucking hustle. I can't even begin to tell you. Not even the show. The show was just like every other year. It was doing the show that was like getting there. So I took an early morning flight from Chicago to New York, which is like 2 hours, right? And as soon as I land in the airport, I'm like, okay, I need to get to Jersey, which is 20 minutes from where I am, because that's where my books were shipped to. They were shipped to a warehouse out there. So I check it out how much it's going to cost for me to take an Uber there, and it ended up being $100.
Oh my God.
So I called my wife, and she's like, don't take Uber, just use the train station. And I'm like, cool. So I'm lugging around all this heavy equipment because I travel with a dolly and I travel with my retractable display. And I had to switch over so much. It took literally 2 hours for me to go from New York Station, or, you know, from LaGuardia to Jersey. And finally, when I got there, I had to rent a U-Haul, go to the warehouse, load up all my stuff, drive into New York and pay like all these insane tollways, and then get to the convention center, load up, set up, do everything I need to do, get back and drive back to New York to Jersey to drop off my U-Haul. And it was raining. It was just it was an awful day. And then I returned everything and I'm like, phew, I'm finally done. Well, after that, I went and met up with some friends that live in New York. And we had like a really small dinner, and I hadn't eaten all day. So it was that was my only meal, this really quick, dinner. Because my friend, he was like, hey, I'm taking a boxing class tonight. Do you want to come with me? And I'm like, fuck it. Why not? Let's go train. And it was like 10:30 and we trained until 11:30. And then I went home and slept and woke up the next morning for Comic-Con. So that's just kind of giving you a sense of like, what it's like for me. For everybody, it's always a trek, just the setup. You're not making any money at all when you're going through all this shit, but it's still work. It's still I think it's so cool what you're doing, because rather than spending that time, preparing for a convention, I get to spend that time writing and being a part of something bigger and allowing you to grow and growing together. I think it's a really, really cool concept, and I'm so honored that you invited me, and I have every intent to be a part of it. I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's all.
It's gonna be super exciting, because at the end of the day, we love stories. Right? So
Everybody's got a story. You know, I just shot one out of my ass right now.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what else you got going on right now. Like what aside from this big event that you're building up to, like where can we get better acquainted with your work in comics and illustration?
I would have to say, if you want to, like, Facebook is the biggest thing for me, especially because Mel is managing it. The one who's marketing and posting stuff and what's going on. Plus, you get to see food pictures. But
yeah.
Okay, so after the Facebook, MOG Park is it's like my name here, and then there's Instagram, MOG Park, and then we still maintain DeviantArt a bit, and then there's ArtStation. So it's in that ranking order. I do have a Twitter account, but I rarely visit there at all, actually, none at all, because I think it's more of a writer's community, and I don't really have much to say. I'm more of a visual person, so yeah. So please try to contact me through Facebook, and then or Instagram. But unfortunately, right now, because I have so much work, the commissions are closed. I can't take commissions anymore. And I do have like more comic covers that I'm doing for independent comic creators lined up. Plus, thanks to, I guess, more of this COVID, I finally can start focusing on myself, as in like not the spiritual weird woo-woo stuff. Like I'm talking about my work, like your own artwork that you want to create. Doesn't have to be somebody else's, commission. It's just I'm doing it for me, man. So I have a bunch of projects that I've always wanted to do on the back burner, and now I still have a lot of work to do. I still have to finish all these commissions and commercial gigs as well. And once I get that all lined out, then I can start to work on that. I'm super excited about that part, working on my own projects.
On your own creator-owned process, yeah. And I think that it's interesting because one of the things that you made me think about is it's so hard to manage all these different like social media, like.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I just stick to Facebook because that's the one I'm most familiar with. And I actually think Twitter is toxic because Twitter just allows you to say these little small blocks of things and of words and maybe an image. So I never identified with it. I just don't like it. I get that it's a writer's thing. I agree with you on that. That's like the platform you promote on. But I think most of the toxicity that I see happens more on Twitter than I notice it on Facebook. And, I just feel more comfortable there, and I get it. There's people who feel divisive about that too. And, but between that and Instagram and Twitter and blah, 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 and all these things, it's hard to manage them all and be good at every single one. Like I think one thing I've noticed is some people that I've followed are stronger in some areas than others. And I think it's cool. I don't think it matters which one you master. I think it's kind of like what I was saying before about, what's most important, conventions, Kickstarter, shops, or digital marketing. They're all important, and we all have to have that presence, but knowing how to, where you feel comfortable is obviously where you're going to be strongest at. And I think Twitter requires a different type of thinking. It's not useless. It's a great tool. You just got to know how to use it right. Yeah,
I'm poor. I'm extremely poor at one-liners. I mean, it's funny because me and my friend and Mel was discussing this yesterday. I can't do one-liners. I can't get to the point. I have to tell you everything from A to Z to lead to that point. I have to give you all the information, and it drives people nuts. I found out. But for me, when somebody tells me A to Z, I love it. I'm like, yes, give me every detail. Like when you're talking about your train from how to set up for just that day one, and you ended with the boxing, I'm like, yes, I love it. Tell me more. Tell me like exactly, everything.
Well, that's the thing is, I think that what your job requires you to do is come up with those details. Like what you were saying when you were working on Game of Thrones, is you had to create your own A to Z based off of a small fragment. So you can work off of it, but it requires a different type of thinking to be able to actually create that, those one-liners. And I agree with you. The one thing I always hate about Twitter is how I have to condense what I want to say, because sometimes there's much more that needs to be said. Like if I'm talking about somebody that has had a tremendous impact on me, and I want to say all these nice things about them, and I can go on forever, Twitter will just say, nope, you can only say one of those things. But that doesn't it forces me to have to rethink, and I should know how to do it because I'm a writer. But I guess I got a little bit of an artiste in me too. So what are you gonna do?
Thank you for actually clarifying that. You kind of like enlightened me right now, because I thought I was crazy, always like, give me the details, man. Give me the information. I want the facts. I want as much as possible. I want TMI, right? and then it drove people nuts around me, and I realized, oh, you just said that actually helps you build the world. So yeah. I guess our mind thinks that way, where we take that sentence and we try to create more out of it, and that's why we want the details.
Of course. And here's the thing, I learned a lot from having you too, because just your attitude of going after it. Like this whole COVID situation has honestly like really deterred me. Like Yisun Shin has actually been on a production hiatus since I want to say like March, April, because the artist has been like wrapping up another production that he had to do. And so we're only now getting back into it. And I need to have that motivation to just go after and finish what I started, because we're so close to finishing up the series now. And it feels good to talk to somebody who's got whose drive is actually like led to success. It's like, yes, that's the kind of attitude I need to have. So I appreciate
you feel me, man. I feel you, yo. I really do. I know. Yeah.
Well, I also we're coming close to the end of the show, and I want to give you a chance to to do a final shout out. But I would like to thank you for coming on today and for sharing your story with us, and your passion and everything. And I wish you nothing but the very, very, very best of success with every endeavor that you do going forward. And I'm glad that we're friends now, and I will be following you closely.
Yeah, me too. Like, we're friends, okay? So, and I have something to say.
Yeah.
I actually know you.
Oh, you did?
Before. Yeah.
Oh, we met before?
Yeah, you don't know it, but it's okay.
I'm so sorry. I try, Mog, I apologize, and I'm embarrassed about it, because I always try and remember people that I meet, but I just meet so many people at these conventions that I tend to forget every once in a while, and I that's my fault.
It's all right. I never introduced myself. I just pretended I was walking around, and I saw Yisun Shin, and I was like, oh, Yisun Shin, are you serious? You must be some Korean dude. Oh, let's check this out. And it's like this white guy, sorry, Onrie. And then, like, what's this dude? He's like spokesman. Where's the real guy? And where's the real dude? And then you're like, yeah, I'm the writer. It's like, what? And I just pretended, I'm just a nobody. And I just heard you talk about, and I was like, hey, what got into this? What is this? Tell me more about it. So I pretended I didn't know anything, because I wanted to know everything what you would have to say, because that's the best way. I wasn't trying to trick you or anything. That's how I like to approach people. I just approach them with a blank slate, so I can actually just figure it out, I want to just hear you just tell me everything about yourself. So you talked about all this stuff, Yisun Shin and the production, and then how you affiliate with the Korean, the production team and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I remember like you sounded very, very professional.
Oh, thank you. I
Very
appreciate
good. And it was a bit intimidating.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to give off that impression.
No. Why apologize? It's cool. Wow, this guy is like super badass. Like, I'm scared.
Hardly. And you know, seeing what you're doing, honestly, and I speak from the bottom of my heart, seeing what you're doing on Artist Alley Shopping Network is making me feel the same way. It's seeing that you're like out there pushing it, and you know, you've got all these plans and all this stuff, and it inspires me equally. You know, it's completely different things. And what 2020 has taught me is that I have so much to learn. There is never a point when I can look at myself and be like, okay, I've mastered conventions. Now I don't need to learn anything else. There's always something to learn, and you know, we learn from talking with each other. So thank you again. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm just glad I got to know you, and you're a really cool guy. So
you're a really cool person too. Mom, do us a favor. Tell us all where we can find you. And I know you already kind of briefly mentioned it, but if you want to just drop us another line or whatever, or if you have a website or something, just, you know, give us a final shout out. Tell us exactly where we need to go right now to throw money in your direction.
Okay, so Facebook, right here, MOG Park. Instagram, follow me if you like, Facebook, Instagram. And DA is Dubu Gomjori. If you don't know, if you can't understand that, just comment me on my post. Say, hey, what was that DA site? You know. But also check me out on Artist Alley Shopping Network. It's AASN. Every Sunday, 6 p.m. California time. So I'm going live there. So just drop by and say hi, get to know me, and then I'll become friends with you. As long and they get to see me draw, and you get to hear more updates. Also, please keep an eye out for 101 Tales. It's gonna be awesome. So 101 Tales, that's happening. I'll write the precise date in one of my postings, and we're gonna start marketing that out like crazy. So keep an eye out for that. And again, just if you want to say hi and just chat with me, every Sunday, 6 p.m. California time in AASN.
Awesome. All right, do me a favor, hang out backstage because I want to like just have like a couple words with you once I close up the show. But again, thank you so much, Mog. I'm gonna just take it from here, and you know, you're always welcome back on the show. You're so you're awesome.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, hang on just a sec here. There you have it, folks. We got such an awesome person that came on the show today, and I'm juiced. I got goosebumps from talking to her, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't yet, be sure you hit that subscribe button. I will be back on tomorrow with a master of Kickstarter, Tyler James Bogle. He's going to come on here and he's going to talk about his platform, Comics Launch. He's going to talk about Kickstarters. He's going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff because I got a lot of questions for this guy. I have been paying attention to him for a long time, and he offers this really, really great like course on understanding this platform. And he's not only teaching, he's also a student of it. And again, I've just never really had a chance to really hone in on that. And now that we're kind of like seeing a shift in how things are going, and we don't know when conventions will be back, we do know that they'll come back, but we don't know when or even how it's going to look. I think it's important to pay even more attention to what's going on Kickstarter right now, and I need to learn. It's not even because I think I need to do it. I just see where the trends are going, and that's what you do. You gotta, you know, adapt or die. And this is a guy who is very well, you know, he's very, very well versed in Kickstarter. So I am very much looking forward to talking with him. I will see you guys tomorrow. Brand new episode. Not sure about the time yet, but I will let you guys know in the morning. And, you know, once these episodes are filmed, they're up on YouTube forever. So if you're watching this right now, the episode's already up there anyway. So enjoy it, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And until that time comes, onward to victory.